celebration of their iconic album Morning View, Incubus is doing a very special limited run of arena dates to play the album in full. I am so stoked for this. They're hitting up the Chase Center September 12th. We have Mike from the band joining us. And Mike, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
I was just telling you off camera, I've seen you and your band a million times, and you guys just put on such a phenomenal show. And I told you that you played this one show in Bimbos. I think it was a sponsored show or something. It was so intimate, and you were still at the peak of your career, or basically you were really a big band. Do you remember that show? Do you remember some of
I
the
do
aspects?
actually. I remember I the strangely the thing that I remember about that show was walking off stage afterwards into like this alley, like from wherever the stage was, and there was the guys that like sort of like ask you to sign a million things that they sell on eBay and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. There was a guy that had all this stuff and he was clearly not like a fan. And and I remember like signing one thing for the person, and then he wanted me to like sign like all this other stuff. And I was like, sorry, I'm just gonna sign, like one thing or whatever. And then he told me my career was over.
What?
Yeah, he got really mad. He was really upset that I didn't like sign all his stuff that he was gonna go sell. And that's the thing I remember about that show. It was like because that was kind of a new experience for us, after like all of a sudden having like this commercial success, um, and just getting treated like that was really different. It was like, whoa, this is different, and so it's like I thought you were a big fan, man. Like
Right?
most people who like we get a pretty good read on these sorts of things. Like people who are actually fans that like know our music and are really paying attention to what we're doing. Like, they just don't act like that.
You guys really broke out obviously with Make Yourself, but Morning View is the album that a lot of fans just really salivate over, have it on repeat on a daily basis for the hardcore fans. But in some regards, they'll hear a song warning or whatever that just pops up out of nowhere, and then you just you're like, all right, I'm going to Spotify, I'm going to listen to the rest of the album. What is it like for you guys, especially you as a musician, to have a couple of albums do so well and then being in the pocket for Morning View as well? Because like I said, you already had success, broke out, and now you're like, all right, let's take this up a notch.
Yeah, I mean, it all felt very logical as it was happening, but now looking back on it as a as a 40 something year old, like person with a lot more experience in the world than when I was like in my early 20s. Um, you know, when we recorded Make Yourself, it was sort of after coming back from touring in other parts of the world for the first time. So we had toured during Science, which was our first like full-length album that we released on Sony. It was the first time we became like world travelers. And so our response to like all that world traveling was to write Make Yourself, which was a pretty big departure from what came before it, which was Science. But then when Make Yourself came out, we did it even more. Like we went to Australia, we went to, I don't, again, we've done so much touring, it all blends together, but we spent a lot of time touring all over the world, on Make Yourself, and then came back from that and had all this momentum and had just seen so much more of the world that by the time, it came time to write and record Morning View, I think we just had a much bigger perspective on music in general and also had just seen so much more of the world. And I think, we really leaned into that and we wanted to make a great album that, we were excited about, that was musically interesting, not repetitive of what we had done before. And I think we did a really good job of it. And now I just feel so lucky and humbled that we had such vision and just grit to be able to go and do something like that.
And that's what I think rings true in terms of the authenticity of the music, your presentation, and the band in general. And I think that's why this reimagination, if you will, this, I don't know how you would describe it, but reimagination, recreation, and reinterpretation of Morning View,
Yeah.
as it's labeled 23, is so exciting because now you have a lot of perspective in terms of, okay, we played these songs so many times and inspired by a live recording, and you and Brandon and the guys are like, you know what, let's tinker around a bit. And I love that from a musician's point of view and as listeners' point of view, as a fan's point of view, like, all right, these guys are really experimenting, stretching out here. What was, I guess, the most exhilarating thing in reimagining and adding, supplementing to the music and the songs?
Well, I think that like over time, when when you play music live repeatedly, lots and lots and lots of times, there are tons of things that like you do differently. Like they could be small things, they could be big things, and they're I'm sure if you ask any musician, um like if they could go back and like re-record a part or something on an old album, there are going to be a million things that they'd be like, oh, I wish I would have played it this way, or I should have done it that way. And this was kind of like one of those little opportunities for us to take those liberties and just kind of like, you know, um, record different versions or variations on what we had done before. And we just figured, look, the original recordings are all there for everybody who wants to hear them. Those aren't going to change. And the songs have kind of evolved here and there over the years of just playing them so many times. So why not? It was fun. And we have a new member of the band, Nicole Rowe, who plays bass with us. She's been with us for over a year now. And it was also just like a really fun way, I think, for all of us to get in the studio and record, and in kind of it wasn't a stressful thing to do. It was really easy and fun, kind of like visiting an old friend, and Nicole is such a great vibe, such an amazing player. She just brings a kind of a different energy into the group, and it really like it's just been great so far. So yeah, I think we were all just equally kind of excited and energized about it. And so we're gonna go out and play, some shows coming up here pretty soon. And they're all gonna be fun. I'm really excited about the tour that's coming up.
Did you revisit any of the old demos to kind of revisit what you were thinking back then and try to compare it to what you do now? And
You know,
perhaps, and did you add some of those elements to the re-recordings?
no, what's funny is so when we first started writing songs for Morning View, at some point, and I think I still have this, and I think Brandon still has it. There's like literally a CD that I would like burn, and I would just play all these guitar riffs to like a like a metronome, and I would just play them, and it was like probably most of the songs that are on Morning View, like just like the guitar riffs. Um, I remember handing Brandon that CD. It probably had like 12 songs on it, and then we went into that house where we made the album, and we spent 2 months just like writing and kind of like taking those ideas and turning them into songs, like with the full band playing. And that was the first time that we solely relied on digital recording. Like we were using Pro Tools. It was the very first time, and the hard drives that we needed were like these big glyph drives. They were like they weighed like 80 pounds. They were like these huge, and you had to pull this like lunchbox thing out, and it was just like comical now looking back on it. And for whatever reason, in my mind at the time, like we needed more memory space on those drives, and I just erased them. Like
Oh
all
man.
all all those demos, all the demo versions of the songs that we did, because we recorded pretty much everything, like just on our own before actually like recording the album versions. And like to me, like at the time, I was like, oh, we don't need these anymore. Like
Oh,
whatever.
oh man.
I just
And you didn't record them onto a tape as a backup.
I mean, it was just one of these things where like I was just like a 20-year-old kid or 21 or whatever, and was just not even didn't even care. Just
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even care.
yeah.
So we lost all
Work
the
is done. That's it. We need
we
more
lost all
space.
those demos except for there was a song called Anything that I think we released as like as a bonus track or something on maybe it's on our kind of what our greatest hits album called Monuments and Melodies. I think it might be on there. That was one that we just recorded as a demo that somehow didn't get erased.
Hmm.
So that one's just literally a demo that we made, in the living room of that house. But yeah, so to answer the question, that was my long way of saying no. We didn't listen to any demos. All we did was, because we've been playing all of those songs. We play a lot of Morning View pretty consistently. So there weren't really too many things that we like would have to make references to. Um, but every once in a while we'd go back and listen and be like, oh yeah, that's how we played that. And we've been playing it differently.
Right, right, right. I understand that this was also a project that kind of reinvigorated the creativity to create new music, and you guys
Yep.
are in the process of getting that done. How far along are you?
We've finished like a batch of new songs. They're not completely done yet, but they're very close to being done. And we'll have a full album done before the end of the year for sure.
Wow.
We're in a good flow now. And everyone's excited about the tour that's coming up. And we have sort of a pile of musical ideas that everyone's like, intrigued by. And I think we just have a good process in place and everybody's in a good headspace for it. And it's been a while since we've, put out new music like this. And it'll be exciting, like it's kind of like there are a lot of places in the world that we've stayed away from for I think too long, and this will kind of be a good time for us to go back and play in South America again, go back to Asia, go back to Australia, play all over the US, go to Canada. Like I mean we spent so much of our earlier career just working really hard, like touring, but it didn't feel like work though. It was fun, and to an extent, with the exception of the fact that it's more tiring in your late 40s. But hey, look, if Keith and Mick can still do it, like I got no excuse.
Exactly.
We none of us have excuses.
Exactly, exactly. You just have nicer green rooms now, and instead of beer and nuts, you may have some wine and cheese in the on the rider, right?
Sometimes.
Appreciate the time, and I really look forward to your show here in San Francisco Chase Center on the September 12th. It's gonna be
Yeah,
amazing.
our first time playing the Chase Center. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks so much for your time. Great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.